So, welcome everyone for another regenerative conversations. And this time, I'm with who I consider to be my inay, my mom, one of the matriarchs and elders that I really treasure. And ever since I've met her, I've been graced with all the wisdom and all uh yeah, not just the wisdom, but her presence and her views in life. So I'm proud to have Inay Maria. I'm gonna share the full name: Maria Josephina Johanna Schilt. And I I would say your life story is fascinating in the sense of how you've gotten into healing in the healing profession,
Yes.
somehow gotten out of it,
Yes.
and then immerse yourself again in it in a
Yes.
different form. So would you want to share a little bit more of that history?
Yes. I grew up with two parents, a father and a mother, who were both nurses. And they met each other in a psychiatric institution in the 20s, this 1928. So it's almost 100 years ago that in the 20s of the last century. And of course, and they told me stories about it. And my father remained his profession until he was 75, in all different kinds of forms, but he kept a nurse. So my father was a nurse. It's very special. Nobody has a father who is a nurse. Nowadays more, but when I was young, in the 50s and 60s, it was special. My mother resumed being a nurse because she took care of the household and the children, and I'm one of the youngest of 10 children. And I was fascinated by the stories my mother and father told me about their work and how they met. And at the same time, I wanted to get out of the house. And they were very protective for their girls. You know, we were not allowed very much. And I thought this is a way to escape the household. So when I was 16, after I had my school exams, and but they went to the schools in the 60s to get nurses into psychiatry because there was a lack of people like now to want to do that work. So it was when I was 16 years old, and I started as an aspirant nurse. So a preschool, I was a kind of pre-student, and it was in a very old-fashioned psychiatric institution in the woods, somewhere far away. And the images of this institution, you know, you can see something like it in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But it was really a very harsh and difficult environment to start as such a young girl.
I could just picture it, at 16 and really getting into such an environment. That must have been very intense.
It was very strictly regulated. It was all organized by nuns, Catholic. It was a Catholic institute. So, but it was also very old-fashioned, even for those days. So there were kinds of therapies, occupational therapies, and that's how we started. And my parents always said to me, "You have the habitat. You have the habitus. You are made for this work."
Wow.
Yes, and so I followed that, huh? And I followed their footsteps, and at the same time I escaped them. You understand? And so when I started, I wrote together with two colleagues later, very much later, a history of psychiatric nursing in the Netherlands. And my father and mother worked in an environment when they were young. There, it was the first education they get. It was a very new situation that the people who worked in psychiatric hospital get a kind of education. Before that, it were just people who kept the order.
Wow. Ah, you have your father's genes in terms of this trailblazing,
Yes, yes,
being very early in your time. And I can
yes, and
imagine that, yeah, that has opened you up to a lot of experiences within the healing profession and
yes.
healing and psychiatry together. I mean,
Well, this
that's
also
really profound.
a big initiation in the suffering of other people, the suffering you don't understand. We all think when somebody has cancer or is very ill, has a lot of pain, we think as bystanders that we understand the other one.
Yeah.
But it's not true. We only have an image of the suffering of others. But in this initiation in psychiatry, I I saw all these different kinds of suffering, because these people did not only have mental or spiritual suffering, but a lot of them were very ill also in the body, and vice versa. So this was, and in the household I grew up, we lived in a village. Many people came to the house of my father and mother, to us, with just a little cut, or so they needed some help, or even they came with the dogs. So my father did operation in the shed. You know, he could do everything. He was not only a psychiatric nurse, but also had his education in hospitals, and he, you know, he was a kind of first aid help, and my mother also. So these images of how you can assess a situation and help immediately, this was one of my talents. And when I came into psychiatry, I saw I had to work on a ward, and I saw this is not good. This is not a good situation for the people who are here.
So I'm curious, given this background of really deep family ties within the healing profession,
Yes.
it must have been challenging when you decided to step out.
Later, yes,
Yeah.
at
So
30,
so what
30
made you?
years later,
Yeah.
yes, I stepped out because as a nurse, you learn to organize care. It is not only that what you do is important for patients and clients, but you have to organize everything around the client. Or in group therapy situation or residential care, you have to organize the group and the surroundings and everything around it. Like a mother or a father in a big household, you have to organize everything. You know, when there is no salt in the house, the cooking is less tasteful. So this became my talent during my work in psychiatry in very different roles, and to see and organize care. And this means also to organize other health professionals, the doctors, the psychologists, the therapists. So, and to see what heals and what does not heal. Right? So the hospital itself was making people sick, the environment. This was the first thing I saw when I saw these people walking rounds, you know, in an empty space, you know, no books, no flowers, nothing to do, just walking rounds. I saw 16-year-old, this is wrong. This must be different. This is not a good environment. So I saw later, when I became 50 years old and I had a wonderful career, I had a lot of possibilities to change things. I was, you know, I started with changing things, and I had a lot of opportunities to build therapeutic communities, to even with building environments, how you with art together with architects, and I had wonderful projects to do, but I saw I cannot change this system. This system is stronger than I am. Because I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. In the 70s, we had this humanistic psychiatry. It was really a revolution that we saw that the circumstances of the patients is more important than the so-called ailment. And what makes people heal, what makes people sick, nowadays it's individual. You have to do something to heal. You have to, but the environment and your social circumstances are so very important. I know you must agree with me on that point.
Yes.
That good housing, good food, good education, this is so very important to make it possible to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And I saw, and to make use of the resources that are available. Many people, even in rich Europe or rich the Netherlands, are not able to use the resources, or are not able to understand what makes them suffer. And I saw that with what I did in this in the psychiatric healthcare, that what I could do came to an end. I saw my ambition to change it. I can do little things, or even big things, but when you really come to the point that you criticize the system in its core values, and the core value in healthcare is doctor knows everything. Doctor will heal you. Medicine, the medicines we provide will heal you. And well, no, this is not my environment anymore. I have to step out, because I was at the end of my ambition. And my studies, in these days, when I became 50, I was studying at the university next to my work. And I was writing a thesis about the history of psychiatry in the Netherlands. I analyzed a history of 500 years.
Wow.
And this was really the point when I ended this and I got my doctorate. I saw I have to go. I have to leave this behind, and this changed not only my work, but I had to change my whole personality, because it became part of my personality. That I was a healthcare provider, that I had a career in, and I had to really let that go. And I walked to Santiago de Compostela to let that. I
Oh,
walked.
I can imagine that as a deep process of shedding.
Yes, 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 and this is also a very big part of healing. In this time, I also came in contact with family and system constellations in the Netherlands, and I was very close to the first teachers in family and systems constellations. And I visited the workshops of Bert Hellinger, who made it big. He did not invent it, but he really saw the possibilities of it, and he really brought it out into the world. And he was very generous and free, that he gave us the allowance to practice family constellations. But I was very hesitant. I stopped my work. I was really investigating. I don't know what to do. I don't know how I can. I don't know if I have something else to give. And at the end of this investigation, by dancing tango in Buenos Aires and visiting a lot of workshops in family and system constellations, and really reimagining myself, really going through my inheritance, and how much it was also a prison, you know. It is also a prison that you have to work in the slums of society. So I really needed a constellation to free myself. I had to ask all the psychiatric patients I was in contact with and the system to please allow me to go further, to explore different fields. And I could only do this by shedding a large part of my being. Yeah? Being in service of a system, being in service, and systemic awareness gave me this opportunity. And
Fascinating how, how your stories are common stories, in that sense of how we grew up within a system,
yes,
and believe in the power of that system to the
yes,
point that we became part of it. And
yes,
in a time where we wake up to the realities of, is this really serving? Then there's this tension of, okay, but who am I? How do I find
yes,
myself when I'm
yes,
outside of this system, outside
yes,
of all these practices? And like what you said, this is where healing occurs, because
yes,
I've seen that for myself in the
yes,
times where I had to really question, what do I want to bring in? What do I want to move forward with? What do I want to leave behind? And it's this process of really tuning in that I also give compassion to, um, the experiences that has limited me, like what you said, the prison, and also how those limitations have allowed me to be who I am right now.
yes, 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 of course, because I always stay very grateful for all the learning experiences I had. And these learning experiences, this makes me go on. I think because the topic is healing, what is the healing process? When you look into it, a lot of learning is involved. A lot of education is involved on every level of our being, be it bodily, somatic healing, or the healing of our emotions, the healing of our relationships, the healing of our communities. Because the systemic awareness, I saw myself in a totally different perspective. I saw myself as a child of my ancestors, of my culture, of my personal traumas I experienced in my life, but also the history of my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, and what happened in the Netherlands, and being part of a colonial, how do you say, a colonial kingdom, and everything I have taken for granted, the possibility to go to a doctor, the possibility to study, even if I had to work for it, because I am from, I had to work for my family, I had to work to sustain myself. So there was no possibility to just go to university. I did a career the other way around. My nursing profession gave me always the possibility to study next to my work. And but even that is a privilege, even because I had access to books, to libraries, to people I worked with, psychiatrists, psychologists, directors, who gave me all this opportunity, who opened up doors for me. I always asked them, what books are you reading? So I could study what they studied. I could, I think the most important part of the healing process is the ability of your mind. The ability to assess what is going on and what can I do. We cannot heal everything. It's, very stupid to think this new age idea, because we don't know what causes illness. We only scratch the surface now, a little, that we know that a lot of the behavior of our genes is because of the changing of the genetics through trauma. This gave me another perspective next to the systemic work, to not assess a client or people in a group according to personality disorders or schizophrenia, but these are all human processes. This labeling does not heal you. The DSM becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
I know. Yeah.
Does it heal us? No, it does not heal us. What heals us is attention. Attention to what is needed here. And when you give too much, healing does not take place, because the person or the society or the relationship that need to heal needs strength. And too much help makes the other weak. You understand?
Definitely. And this is also why, for me, the emphasis that I've always been drawn to is how can we amplify strengths? And a lot of modalities are very much deficit based. What is lacking? What is it that, what is not there? And
Yeah,
so we see,
strength is not there.
yeah,
The ability to stand up, and even when there was a natural disaster,
yeah,
people start to rebuild their houses, they heal. The other ones who sit and wait for help, they don't heal. You know,
exactly.
part of trauma release is action. It is not only going back to the trauma and go to the emotions and see how it changed you. Trauma changes people. So the systemic awareness is also trauma related. When you see what moves the system and what freezes the system, when you see that, then you can do a healing intervention. And the healing intervention is sometimes to say, no, I cannot help you.
Oh, wow.
And this is very powerful if you
Yes.
dare to say, I cannot help you. And what I see nowadays on the internet, in all the Facebook marketing and the internet marketing, the people who bring themselves out as coaches, as healers, as witches, shamans, or everything. They say, I can heal you. This is their marketing tool, but they should not say that. When you are in the healing business, you don't do marketing. It's really very important to understand what you are capable of, and what you are capable of will be next door, will be very close. You don't need to do any marketing for that. Yes, you have to tell your friends and your family and everybody you know, I'm starting this, and maybe you will come to give me when I started my groups in Amsterdam, I just asked my friends and they asked other friends, and we all came together and I did my first constellations, and it moved like that, you know, it moved immediately. And I knew my teachers and my who had said that to me, Maria, this is your work, you know, you have to. And when in this last 22 years, I work with trauma release therapy and with systemic work in so family and system constellations. I see there are many levels we need to address. The levels of your abilities. If you cannot concentrate, how can you change your life? How can you learn anything if you cannot concentrate? Concentrate on the being there. So
and to be honest, this is also what is one of the pitfalls of this, generation, the ability to stay focused in the midst of all the stimuli and all this information is robbing us of this being really fully present in the moment.
Yes, and this ability you learn through crafts. As a child, you need crafts. You need to work with your hands. You know, what we do in the world is not with our mind, but what we do in the world is with our body, our steps, and our hands. And this is our intelligence. Our intelligence is not in the brain. It's in the whole nervous system. And the energy you can get, and a child, children who learn crafts, be it knitting or woodwork, or they get another kind of system awareness, because when you understand a pattern, a knitting pattern, you understand a system. When you know how to fix a bicycle, you understand this system. And this ability in the concrete world, you take with you in your social engagement, in communities, and in your relationships. And I think this ability is very important in the healing process. The other ability is to take care of your body, live a natural lifestyle. The big problem with the industrialization of the 19th century, the 18th and the 19th century, they brought all these psychiatric institutions because there were so many people who did not fit in the new environment, the new challenge of from a rural society going to cities, big industries where people had to work and where they had to be there for the whole day and being focused on their work. It was a whole different socialization. But this, with technology together, brought us so far away from a natural lifestyle, from cooking a meal in the middle of the day, taking a pause, right? Working in the morning, then go home and cook a meal in the middle of the day. Yeah. And
we don't even know our natural rhythms.
Yes.
And because it's so imposed on us of this is when you do these things.
This is killing us, going away from the natural rhythms. This is
Inay Maria, there's so many things to say and so many things more to ask, but this is also why I like this 30-minute conversations, just to to jumpstart conversations again around regeneration, around why restoration is really at the heart of whatever future, emergent systems that we need to have. Because if we don't put healing at the center, we'll just be continuing with whatever systems that is right now. And I love what you're saying, the invitation to go back to our natural systems, to our natural selves.
And this is very important, but not be the natural system as the family system, as a prison. No. But what gives strength is the ancestors. The ancestors gives us strength because they went through a lot. So the awareness that you are a child of your ancestors gives you already strength, because they went to a lot more you will ever go through. The other thing is, this is intergenerational. So we need to heal the intergenerational conflict, but also that we are too loyal. That maybe when you had an aunt who was imprisoned or was very poor, you have to stay poor also. That's why this awareness about the generations is your family system is very important. The other thing is that you need to address your personal traumas. Your nervous system is always going through the same. We need to take a break, not like a holiday to on vacation, make a lot of fun. No, we need these retreats. We need retreats from what we are. Being a pilgrimage, I always say going on pilgrimage for a couple of months is the oldest form of psychotherapy. So I am the anti-therapist. There are so much more healing modalities, and every person needs to take their path in this. And what also is very, very important is to avoid harm. You understand? So a doctor who is very busy and gives antidepressants presence is causing harm. In a lot of cases.
Really taking the time and,
Take the time,
again, taking the attention and the focus.
or refer to somebody who can help. Instead of, and I know a lot of people just want these antidepressants. They want to heal, they want to get rid of the symptoms. But this I see as all these different layers you can be aware of, and the healing of trauma is a personal one, but is also a community thing.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
thank you for bringing that in. And what, when we just land in that of healing is not just about ourselves,
no,
but it's done with community. Oh,
yes,
so
yes, and this is really the next level of. That's why I love family and system constellations, to be a day to work together. You are a community of a day, and you heal a lot more than the topics you addressed. Simple by cooperation. What is a community? It is cooperation. And if we look at the Netherlands needs to heal of a history, and Great Britain needs to heal of, and all people who everybody needs to have a part in that. And the bigger the container, the stronger the container, the more healing can be processed. We need to go to the next level of the evolution of humankind, and it's very, very urgent.
I'm seeing that we need to have a part 2 of this conversation. Thank you, Ina Maria, for being part of this regenerative conversation around healing, and how how we can get back into this process of healing, not just for ourselves but also within our communities. And like I said, I'm gonna definitely ask you for another one of this.
You are all welcome, Lana. Very happy you do this.
Yeah, I'm very happy to share your wisdom. Like what I said at the start, I see you as a matriarch, having lost my mom at a very young age, and also my grandmother a couple of years ago. I've been in this quest of surrounding myself with matriarchs who can really help me be guided into this, into this new world that is emerging. And your force, you're a force of nature, in all the wisdom and all the depths that you bring in the conversations around healing. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to more.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Lana.